And finally, for today's episode, let's turn to David Trim for a look at Adventist history.
This week, a new university opens up in Kenya.
Welcome to This Week in Adventist History. January 20, 1980 was the first day of classes at the University of Eastern Africa, Baraton, in Kenya. There were just 20 students, but today the university has 2,250 students, an international faculty, and is particularly strong in the social sciences. In fact, we in the Office of Archives, Statistics and Research worked closely with a research team at Baraton that implemented in Africa the last two global surveys of church members, in which 26,500 African church members were surveyed. In this photo, you see some of the 15,800 questionnaires returned to Baraton as part of the most recent survey last year. On January 27, 1972, Mabel Henrietta Sterling died in Sydney, Australia, aged 83. Born Mabel Klopfenstein in 1888 in the US state of Ohio, in June 1908 she wed George Sterling, a young minister from Michigan, and 3 weeks after their marriage they left as missionaries, sailing from San Francisco for the islands of the South Pacific. These were then remote and fever-ridden islands. Many Adventist missionaries died or contracted fatal illnesses there. But Mabel and George served 3 decades in Pacific Island mission fields, where their only daughter, Bernita, was born. 25 years of the Sterling service were in the French-ruled Society Islands and Marquesas Islands, for most of which George was the mission president. They faced fierce opposition from the French colonial authorities and settlers, and yet they won both French and indigenous converts. George and Mabel's joint ministry ended with 13 years in education and pastoral work in New Zealand and northern New South Wales in Australia, where they retired in 1951. This photograph shows Mabel and George in the 1950s. They had enjoyed just 1 furlough to the United States in 1922-23, after which they never saw their families again. Going as missionaries was, in a sense, a life sentence, but it was one Mabel and George Sterling embraced joyfully and successfully. That was This Week in Adventist History.